Again, with protesters gathering today outside the home of the Postmaster General with a message. Demonstrators are demanding that Postmaster General DeJoy end a series of recent changes to the Post Service that have slowed mail delivery. They say DeJoy, who's an ally of President Trump, is trying to sabotage the mail system ahead of the upcoming election, where more voters will mail in their ballots because of the pandemic. Among those voters, well, the president and the first lady, who both requested mail-in ballots in Florida. But that didn't stop President Trump, who even this morning continues his baseless attacks on mail-in voting, tweeting that the 2020 election will be a fraudulent mess and that we may never know who won.
Over at USPS, the warnings of trouble ahead are piling up.
When you start making cuts, you're delaying the process. You're not speeding up the process. I'm a 31-year postal employee. I've never seen these type of cuts being put in place in order to make the service better.
After months of railing against mail-in ballots that he claims without evidence will hurt Republicans.
Mail-in voting, it's going to be the greatest fraud in the history of elections.
President Trump now admitting this week that he wants to hold up funding for the U.S. Postal Service to gain a political advantage in November.
They want $25 billion for the post office. But if they don't get those two items, that means you can't have universal mail-in voting because they're not equipped to have it.
I think anybody, regardless of where you stand on the election, who you're voting for, I think everyone should be equally as concerned about what's happening with the post office, because it's not just a tactic by Donald Trump in order to try to seize power and to maintain power, but it's also something that is detrimental to millions, to every single American. And the possibility that the post office will be privatized becomes more of a reality. So this is something that's very important that I think everyone should participate in. And you'll see, you saw in the video, I have a couple more videos that I'll pull up on your screen, where protesters have taken to the streets in order to let the Postmaster General know that this is not acceptable. I'm also going to put up on your screen the names, the faces and the names of the Board of Governors, the governors who serve on the board of the USPS. And I will link in the description a link to where you can go and find their email addresses and their phone numbers. This is all public information. As a part of their job, it is public information, and you can email them. These are things that we can do to actually stop this, because it is a very serious political issue. It is a very serious tactic that Donald Trump is trying to employ to just in case he loses the election fair and squarely. He wants to sow as much confusion and concern about the post office as possible, when the post office has been the backbone of this country since the founding of this country. I want to pull up a tweet on your screen of what the president said on Twitter earlier today. He said the following. He said, "The Democrats know the 2020 election will be a fraudulent mess. We'll maybe never know who won." Now, I'm sorry, I stumbled over it because the grammar there is, well, it's Trumpian grammar. But he's trying to sow discord and confusion and the suspicion that no matter how it turns out, that it won't be valid. And you know that this is exactly what he's trying to do. CNN did the reporting showing that he has been planning this for some time, working with the Postmaster General DeJoy and sabotaging the American postal system.
In May, Trump installed a top Republican donor, Luis DeJoy, as Postmaster General. And in the last 2 weeks, an avalanche of developments have raised new questions about Trump's influence over the agency and the risk that mail delays could have an effect on the election. Earlier this month, Trump met with DeJoy in the Oval Office for a meeting that the White House said was about congratulating him on his appointment in May.
But it's not just the politics of it that is so problematic. For anyone who's still on the fence, and maybe you're still upset, I don't know, whatever the case may be, there are a lot of people who depend on their medicine to come through the Postal Service. And let me read this quote from a doctor on Twitter. This is what Dr. Rob Davison said. He said, "As a doctor, I'm deeply concerned that the White House's sabotage of the USPS may literally cost many Americans their lives. Let me repeat that. The administration's plan to slow down the mail could cause folks to die if they don't get their medications on time. And then he goes into an explanation as to how that is not hyperbole, but actually the truth. The link to that Twitter thread is also in the description. But here's the point. There is something that you can do besides just be angry and frustrated. You could participate in the protests if you're so inclined. If you're near any of these locations, you could participate that way. You can call, you can email these everyone who's on the board of governors, these men who have the ability. These men have the ability to fire the Postmaster General. So it's not just an act in futility, but it's actually an action that could lend some really serious results, some positive results. Now, this is what a postal worker sent Molly Jong-Fast. She is a reporter for the Daily Beast. This is what she sent her on Twitter. She said, "Hi, Molly, I'm a big fan and the USPS and USPS worker. I don't have a platform to speak, but people can leave outgoing mail in their mailbox for carriers to pick up, and they can schedule pickup times online. If they're willing to pay a few dollars, they could send a ballot priority with tracking. Some supervisors are taking measures into their own hands and sending out all loose ballots with carriers to ensure delivery." So there are a lot of things that we can do. It's direct action, bringing pressure. We cannot be afraid to pressure those in power. DeJoy, Postmaster General DeJoy, the people on the board of governors, those men on the board of governors, all of our politicians and elected officials, all hands on deck to accomplish this. But there are also ways that you can participate outside of the protest action. Last but not least, I got to mention this. There are a lot of people who are suggesting that perhaps Amazon, FedEx, and UPS should pick up the slack. No, that is not a good idea. That is a terrible idea. I just want to give you a data point. The United States Post Office does more mail delivery in 16 days than UPS or FedEx does in an entire year. Those private companies do not have the capacity that the Post Office has built up over centuries. They do not have the capacity, nor will they have the incentive to deliver mail to rural locations that no one can get to. And if we begin going down this road, it's a high possibility. Actually, let me just say it more directly. Privatizing the post office is something that Republicans have wanted to do for a very long time. Okay? Privatizing the post office is something that Republicans have wanted to do for a very long time. So this is not just something that Donald Trump is doing to maintain political power. It's in lockstep with Republicans who see this massive operation that they feel like they can get their hands on and break it up and give it off to companies like FedEx, Amazon, and the UPS. So anyone who's suggesting that they haven't really thought it through, and if they thought it through, then they're not on our side. Privatizing the post office is the absolute worst thing that we could possibly do. There are too many things that we should do in advance of even considering that. At no point should we consider that. At no point should we consider privatizing the post office. Can you imagine having to pay a monthly subscription just to get a birthday card delivered to the other side of the country? Paying $57 a month for a gold subscription with FedEx for them to deliver your mail on a daily basis. No, privatizing the post office is the absolute worst thing that we could possibly do. There are some action steps that you could take right now to ensure that the election is not encumbered by Donald Trump's criminal activity. But whatever we do not suggest that we privatize the post office or that we give any type of this responsibility to people like Jeff Bezos.